Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Rob Carey at zenshave.com, and I'm listening to Moustache and Blade.
Welcome to the Moustache and Blade Podcast, a show dedicated to all things facial fur and traditional wet shaving in an effort to create global facial awareness. And now, here are your hosts, Douglas Smythe and Ryan Stephen Green.
And I am Douglas Smythe, and with me, as always,
Ryan Stephen Green.
And welcome to episode 16 of Moustache and Blade, folks. Today's show is brought to you by HowToGrowMoustacheStore.com, where you can find Synergy shaving soap and many other shaving accessories, including our newly released razors. You can find the S42, the Polywog, and the Longfellow. So check them out today, folks. That's HowToGrowMoustacheStore.com. And thank you. For those of you listeners with questions or concerns or suggestions, maybe there's someone you want to hear on our show, please contact us. You can do so by calling 347-333-1511. Outside of the United States, just add 001 first to that. Reading 001-347-333-1511. You can also contact us through email. I am Douglas at mustacheandblade.com. And he is Ryan at mustacheandblade.com. And lastly, we encourage you to go to mustacheandblade.com, not a website, but a pre-populated tweet that we have taken the liberty, yet again, the audacity, to fill out for you, broadcasting that you are listening to your favorite new wet shaving podcast. All you have to do is hit send. You'll be doing us a service, and we salute you. And now on to today's show. Today's show is something really special. We have a lot of great guest segments on board and a great guest as well, Charles Roberts, the controversial Charles Roberts, the creator of Method Shaving. Love him or hate him, he's got a lot to say, and he's been on the scene since day one. He was there at the beginning of the wet shaving revolution or renaissance or whatever you wish to call it. Charles has been here the entire time. You may have seen him on YouTube, read about him in the forums. Give him a listen. He's got a lot to say. And this interview it's quite interesting, in fact. Not only do we cover a vast amount of history rapidly, we also take this somewhere you probably weren't expecting it to go. And for a little teaser, let me just say, Shave Off 2014. That's right, folks. Shave Off 2014. Piqued your interest, eh? We also have on our show today the Razor Doctor, Matt Pisarcik of RazorEmporium.com. He'll be answering a question from one of our listeners in regards to repairing their vintage razor. So keep those calls coming in. Matt loves answering them. You can reach him and us at 347-333-1511. That's any question for the Razor Doctor. We will also be hearing from Lynn Abrams, some words of wisdom on wet shaving. And lastly, or actually, firstly, if that's even a word, we will be hearing from myself. And so let's get this show on the road, shall we? And now I give you, well, me. Shave on! Hey, and welcome back to another wet shaving tutorial with Douglas Smythe from HowToGrowMoustache.com. Hey, folks, I'm going to try to make this really quick today because we have a long episode to get to. But I want to speak about hot towels. I've been seeing them show up a lot lately, more and more, in shaves of the day across the forums. And I'm really excited about this because I'm a huge, huge fan of using a hot towel. Now, some people, there are kind of two schools out there, don't care for a hot towel. And this is usually people that prefer a cold shave anyways. But their, not necessarily argument, but their reason is it brings the blood to the face, it opens the pores, it makes the skin too soft, and it's tough to get a close shave. And this may be true if you're using just hot water, or it just may be true for them. Everyone's different, as we all know. But what I want to add to this is when you use essential oils, this is the best of the both worlds aspect. Certain oils work as toners on the skin, no matter how hot the temperature is, closing the pores, making the skin tighter. So if you combine the two forces, you're gonna get a great shave. At least try this and then let me know. And some of these essential oils that you would want to use is eucalyptus, rose, lavender, even green tea. Lilac is also great. And then there's jasmine. These are great essential oils to use. If you choose to use an essential oil, now I've seen this online, and it's not wrong. It's not the method I choose to use, because I don't see it as effective. You will see people boiling water, pouring it on the rag, and then adding a few drops of essential oil to the water. As you know, oil and water doesn't mix that well. In fact, it doesn't mix at all. So you're not really getting the most out of your essential oil. What I recommend you do, instead of dropping oil into the water, is find essential oils. Find an essential oil in an applicator bottle with a roller top. And before you submerge the towel or flannel in water, do a crisscross action with the roller, an X on the cloth, or a spiral from the center out. Let this sit for a minute or two. The oils will absorb into the cotton like a wick almost. Then add the water to the mix, and you will get much more action from the essential oil, or energy, as some would say. And this is true. So that is level 2 in the hot towel movement. And now we're going to take a little tip from Douglas Smythe. This is what I do. And this is one of the things I do. And this is something I got from, as with most folks involved in wet shaving, we draw from our past experiences, and try to cross it over sometimes. We don't even realize we're doing this. What I used to do, now bear with me, this is a little digression on my part, but I swear I will tie this together. Back in college, friends and I, we used to build sweat lodges, Native American sweat lodges, and this is a lot of fun. For those of you who don't know what a sweat lodge is, it is kind of the Native American version of a sauna. Or what you do is you dig a hole in the ground, a deep hole in the ground, and then you build, by bending branches, a little hut around that. You can tie them together. Then you take a tarp that you can cover the hut with and seal it. So we would cover it with a tarp and then bury the ends in the ground, creating an airtight little room. Granted, there was a flap in the door. We could still breathe. But we'd do this. Then we would build a fire outside of the hut and heat rocks. When the rocks were hard enough, we would shovel them into the pit within the hut and then pour a bucket of water on top of there after we sealed off the room. And this is just magical, and it's great for the muscles, very relaxing, wonderful at college parties. Anyways, I, being myself, had to take this to another place. And what I started to do was adding eucalyptus leaves to the water. I would put them in the bucket and let this sit in the sun all day. I would make a blend sometimes. I'd throw rose petals in there as well. It became like a sun tea. And then, instead of using just plain water in the sweat lodge, we would use this blend. And this was pure magic. It would take you to someplace else. Especially eucalyptus just opens you right up. I highly recommend anyone who is into sweat lodges to try that, or even in your steam room, add some of this to the mix. So anyways, taking this back to the wet towel, what I would like you to try today, this is great for a pamper shave, so not necessarily today, but on a Friday, you are going to create some distilled flower petal water. What you will need is a bamboo steamer, which I choose to use because I'm tradicional, or you could also get away with using a microwave steamer or a microwave safe bowl. This isn't really going to steam it, but it will heat the towel up, and you'll get some good results from this as well. You'll also need some tongs, and that's really about it. What you will need to do, and this is a key, cheesecloth. Not many gents out there have cheesecloth in the kitchen. You can find this online or in the kitchen section at your local supermarket, I'm sure. Get some cheesecloth. Line a strainer with the cheesecloth. Put petals on top of that. About 2 cups of rose petals or eucalyptus leaves, lilac. If you're using dried lavender or any dried jasmine, you can cut it back to 1 cup. Stuff's pretty potent. Put that on top of the cheesecloth, which is in the strainer. Nest the strainer on top of a glass bowl or a metal mixing bowl. Then fill it with water until the water seeps up into the strainer and the petals are just floating on top of that. Leave this overnight. It needs at least 12 hours. 24 hours would be great to distill it and to allow the oils and the fragrance to seep into the water. The next day, pre-shave, grab the cheesecloth by the sides, bundle it up into a little ball, and squeeze out the rest of the juice into that water. Now you have flower petal water. Now it is time. Okay, take your hot, or soon-to-be hot towel, and I don't recommend using a face cloth, which the dimensions of a face cloth are usually 12 by 12. You could get away with this, but you really want to cover your face and your neck, so you're going to need a traditional size hot towel. Traditional sizes run about 20 by 26, 15 by 27, 15 by 23, or 12 by 20 being the smallest. The bigger the better. Put the towel in the flower petal water, let it absorb the water, wring it out lightly, put it in the top basket of your steamer, being the microwave steamer, a bamboo steamer, or any steamer you can get together, or just in the microwave safe bowl. Zap it in the microwave safe bowl for about 60 seconds. If you're using the steamer, I believe it's 90 seconds. I don't use them, so you might want to check this out first online. In a bamboo steamer, put it in the top basket, turn it on, make sure this is on top of your wok. You can either use regular water in the bottom, or you can use the rest of the flower petal water. Let that steam. When you think it's ready, take the tongs, grab your towel, and test it with your fingers. If it's too hot, you won't be able to hold on to it longer than 3 seconds. Remember, it's not the steam that's going to burn you, it's the hot water in there. So if you can't hold it longer than 3 seconds, you're not ready to put it on your face. But if the temperature's right, now it's time to hold it to your face and get ready for your shave. And you can do this in the bathroom, holding it up to your face and your neck. Or you can, if you have a lazy boy nearby, lie back and just relax. Put it on your face, and when the towel gets cool, or after 2 to 3 minutes, it's time to shave. You will notice immediately, depending on what flower you use, how different this feels, how different your skin already feels. The eucalyptus is wonderful this time of year during cold and flu season, so I highly recommend that, especially if you're into menthol shaving as well. If you have some soaps to match this with, it's just, it'll blow your mind. So you're ready. If you have any flower petal water left over, you can always bottle that and keep it in your fridge. That will last for probably about 30 days. Again, use the smell test to make sure, but I think this is something you're going to be really into and probably making this a lot, so 30 days, you probably won't have to worry about. So that is my hot towel wet shaving tip of the day, folks. I hope you get a lot out of this. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, douglas@moustacheandblade.com. I will also be putting a tutorial on howtogrowmustache.com very soon. There'll be an article. So, enjoy your shave, enjoy your hot towel, and I'll be talking to you next week on our next episode. And now to you, Lynn.
Hi guys, Lynn Abrams from Straight Razor Place, Straight Razor Designs, coming to you with a tip on wet shaving. One really important part of your body when it comes to wet shaving that you should never leave home without is your index finger. Recently I've seen on some of the Facebook forums and groups that there's mapping, face mapping is coming back into some recognition, and people are bringing it up again, and this is really a great thing. So when you map out the direction that your beard grows on your face, that's really great. And a lot of people use their index finger actually to get how or determine or draw out how the grain grows. When you're using your index finger and you're mapping out how the grain of your face grows, that's really important because that enables you to get a closer shave with less passes. And less passes means less redness, less abrasion, less irritation. So what I want you to think about is using that index finger, though, as actually a tool of shaving. So when you've done 1 or 2 passes and your face is mostly clean, but you still feel like there's a couple of tough areas there where there's just a little bit of beard left on your face, just a touch of whisker left on your face, if you'll use that index finger, you'll feel where the resistance is coming from. What is the direction of that last little remaining whisker that's there? That index finger will actually give you the pass that you should take with either your double-edged razor or your straight razor. So if you're thinking in terms of across the grain or with the grain or against the grain, think in terms of what is your finger telling you. So it may be even less of an angle of attack. You know, it might be just a little bit of a nuance of a difference in that angle of attack by using that index finger, but it will show you, using that index finger on your face, exactly what that angle needs to be. So rather than taking the razor straight to your face after you felt that last little bit and coming back over it a bunch more times until you may get some irritation there, that index finger really gives you the exact stroke. So if you follow the way it's going and then take out your razor or your straight razor and do that pass that your index finger showed you what to do, more times than not, you'll pick up that last little remaining spot of whisker and you'll get a lot closer towards that just ultimate baby butt smooth or that really, really sticky, soft feeling that you're looking for all over your face. So remember to use that index finger. If you're shaving and you have that last little bit and it's a problem area for you, look at what that index finger is telling you what to do with your razor. And if you follow that, I'm betting you're going to have better shaves. So that's my tip for today. We'll have some others. I may even do a video on this one. So thank you guys very much and happy shaving. I'll see you next time.
And now it's time to pull in the razor doctor himself, Matt Pisarcik.
Hi, I'm Robert, and I'm calling from Ventura, California. I have a question about my Gillette Red Tip razor. I've noticed that I'm having a little bit of difficulty twisting the bottom there to get the doors to open. And I thought about, well, should I put lubrication? Do I need to oil it? Will that make it worse? If you can tell me the best way to do a little maintenance on that razor, that would be greatly appreciated. Thanks.
Hey, Robert, thanks so much for calling in. That's actually a really common question we get. And what I would really recommend you doing is giving that razor a real nice deep cleaning in something like maybe a dishwasher. If you don't have a dishwasher, you can also use just some dish detergent like Dawn and an old toothbrush. It sounds like it just needs to really be cleaned well. A soap scum buildup is probably what's leading to it not opening correctly. After you clean it, if you do want to oil it, we recommend using something like mineral oil because it's food safe and it's sanitary on your face. It's not going to hurt you or anything. Plus, it's cheap and widely available. That'd be a good lubricant for it. And these old Gillette razors are so durable that I'm sure with just a good cleaning and some simple lubrication, it'll go right back to working again. So I really hope that helps out with your red tip, and I hope that it starts working again for you. Thanks for the question, Robert. This is Matt Pisarcik from Razor Emporium, the Razor Doctor, signing off. Keep the questions coming in.
On with the show. Now we would like to welcome Charles Roberts to the show, the method shaver himself. Welcome to the show, Robert. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for having me today. Very, very happy to be with you, and I've been looking forward to this. So here we are.
Yes, here we are. So, I mean, let's just start from the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been involved in the wet shaving world?
I started back in the very early 90s. I was in my late 30s, and back then all we had was, well, we didn't have anything. There was nothing called wet shaving back then. It didn't exist. What basically we had variations of what we see today on the store shelves. Not as much, obviously, but we had basically, back then we had the sensor razor. We had cans of Noxzema and Foamy and all that. And basically what you see today, except in much, much smaller numbers. So essentially Gillette and Schick. The sensor razor, you had Good News, you had the blue disposable Good News razors, you had the big disposables. But basically, if you had a shaving issue, if you had a very thick beard, or if you had cosmetic issues, dermatological issues, acne, whatever, you were just out. And right. For a lot of, it was a very narrow range of usable product that was available. And I got into my late 30s and found that I couldn't shave anymore. My beard was getting very dry. I was getting silver, gray tips in my beard. It was getting too dry. So I started shaving, and at that time my daughter was born, and this has now become a kind of a well-known story of I had a baby girl in the house and couldn't play with her because my beard got in the way, and I couldn't play with her because if she touched my beard, she'd get a little red raspberry on her leg or something, and she'd cry. Well, that wasn't going to be that wasn't going to be suitable. So I went off to try to fix my shaving problem so I could play with my daughter. And this story has now kind of entered the world of, I don't know if you want to call it myth making, but it's out there. And a lot of people know this story, and it's an endearing story. So I went out in search of finding a way to shave closer and found that I couldn't do it. There was nothing. Right. And so anyhow, fast forward, I ended up getting, I found, I think maybe at Crabtree and Evelyn, I found a shaving soap and a brush. And at that time, nobody could tell me how to use it because nobody used that stuff anymore and hadn't for an entire generation. And I started to try to use it, and I didn't know how, and I didn't get very far, so I quit. And then my problem came back. I couldn't shave, and back and forth. Finally, I stumbled across some George Trumper product in a magazine, brought that in, and got to know the importer for that. It was just the guy who was going back and forth from England to America, and bought some of it and used it and discovered an entirely new world. And got fascinated by it, probably obsessed with it, which I've kind of been all my career. And just from there, just started to experiment and play around. And it was very hard at first. It was very, very difficult. We're talking about my first 10 years, basically, I just lost money. I already had a business. Right. I was already in the retail business. And I was just trying to make this thing with this concept called wet shaving. I was trying to get it to make sense. And this is where the method shaving movement came from. back then, you're talking mid-'90s, mid to late '90s, nobody really could tell you how to wet shave. Okay, nobody had ever really hammered out a methodology for it. Okay, nobody had done that, and that was a big problem. Now, bear in mind, back then the double-edged razor was not around. There were no double-edged razors back then. They just weren't. They were not around. You couldn't buy them. I mean, there were some people who may have sold them, but nobody used them. We were using brushes and soaps from England, and we were using sensor razors from Gillette. So anyhow. I started experimenting. I started to kind of leave the beaten track, and I realized that wet shaving was very, very good the way it was practiced at that time, but it really wasn't all that different from what I tried to get away from in the first place. It was a more elaborate, more expensive, but better, definitely better form of can shaving, but it wasn't at all what I really wanted. So I went off and started to develop this concept called hydrogenic shaving, which is an old term for water-based shaving media, and I ended up inventing all that, the concept of water-based media as opposed to oil-based, and got into some organic chemistry and started to master the technique of blending using natural lipids, vegetable oils, and so on. And pretty much everything coming from Europe. I was already in that business, and so just started developing products. And the range of products became, they started to roll out every couple of years. There was the concept of the hard soap primer, which of course everybody in method shaving knows exactly what that is. It's the soap that's used that starts the whole process. And then there's the cutting balm, which is a very, very famous product now. And then later on came the shaving paste, the conditioners, the tonics. Now there's activators. And anyhow, basically what I came up with was a three-part trifecta, a triadic system of primers, buffers, and conditioners. And early on in the game, I established a methodology called the cutting forms, the 3X cutting form model, which is all over the internet now. It's used around the world. It is the standard template for double-edged shaving. And so, anyhow, it just as razors became available and the popularity grew, I kept adding product and kept expanding my instructional range and the portfolio of products would track the instruction. I developed new techniques. I wrote some books along the way. You can read them on my website. Wrote the first textbook of American wet shaving back in, I want to say, 2000, called The Systematics, which now is pretty much just an archive of archival interest. There's not a lot in it anymore that's very relevant. There's some interesting analysis of shaving methodology in that book, but it's now considered primarily of historical value. But the historical value is considerable. It's quite large because it's the first printed guide on this new phenomenon called wet shaving. Once the internet came out, it went from being a clubbable kind of cultish system that I was teaching here in Austin, Texas, to one that exploded overnight. And the internet took it and powered it up. Right. And then came videos and then came everybody you see now on the internet, one after the other. There were two other people involved in this process, and it's really appropriate that I name both of them. One is a very, very, very dear friend of mine who passed away several years ago, Ray DuPont, the founder of ClassicShaving.com, whose reputation is formidable and very inspiring, a magnificent man. And he and I we collaborated together on quite a few. Not collaborated per se, but we were very close. We were competitors, but we were also we saw ourselves as the founders of this movement, along with another individual named Eric Malka, who founded The Art of Shaving. And the three of us, we didn't actually work directly together, but we knew of each other very well. Ray and I were very close. We spoke pretty regularly. And Ray, the reason I'm providing this information is because it's very relevant to where we are today. The three tributaries. Ray developed the first U.S. import wholesaler of product from Europe. He was the one. He was the one who developed a large-scale importation system for bringing new product into the United States. And the people who run it now are doing it by a brilliant job and working very much in the spirit that he established. Also, he was a big fan of the straight razor. And Ray was promoting straight razors long before I had any interest in them, for sure. He pursued the straight razor. He wanted to make that the shaving tool of choice in the United States. And this, going back now almost 20 years ago. This man was extremely visionary. Eric worked for George Trumper for a while, and then he broke off And he invented the concept of the standalone barbershop boutique, very much in the tradition of what we see in England today. And he called that the art of shaving. And I took the double edge. I captured the double edge and invented method shaving around the double edge. So we were the three founders, and I'm the only one left. Ray sold. I'm the only one. We actually call us the three amigos. Ray passed away, I want to say 2005, 2006. Horrible blow to the industry. Horrible. We're still struggling with that. I mean, Ray was a visionary, a great visionary, and a great competitor. And he was a bedrock of information, a fountain of information, and a bedrock of disciplined market development and strategic thinking. He was quite a colleague. And Eric, I didn't know very well. I spoke with Eric a few times on the phone. Eric did, of course, a great job with Art of Shaving. Sold that. He's out of the business, and I'm the only one left. And method shaving now is going from, it's now evolving into what I call cosmetic shaving, which is now getting closer and closer to dermatology in terms of mirroring dermatology to American wet shaving, to modern wet shaving in a way that is extremely helpful for both shaving and dermatology in terms of addressing skincare issues. I have found that particularly my system and my products are extremely effective at handling, controlling, and managing, in many cases, very effectively, various kinds of dermatological issues that people have. So I'm very much working on that now. The bottom line to all of this, the main thought point here is that wet shaving is an extraordinary field, and we're still in the very early stages. Straight razor shaving has exploded on the scene in the last 3 years. To a point where it's not even recognizable anymore. So basically what you have in the United States today, you have three schools. You have traditional brush, which is what you see on the internet. You see shaving brushes, double-edged razors, potted creams, soaps, and all that. Most of it coming from Europe, but a lot of it comes from the United States now. Then you have we call it the British or Continental School. I know those are two separate things, but we kind of lump them together. Then there's the American school of wet shaving, which is the one I found, which is called method shaving. That's referred to as the American school of wet shaving, which is a very fast, very, very, very close, we call gloss style shaving, where you're taking a very, very fast blade, very sharp, very brand new, highly finished blade like a feather platinum, and you're setting up an extremely wet, thin cutting glacis, and you're blading that thing off in about 6 minutes. And you're basically, you're just cutting down to the DNA. You're glossing your face and neck. Then there's the third school, which is actually I'm calling straight razor shaving. Straight razor shaving is a separate school altogether. It is not American and it is not continental. It's really its own thing. So you have British, you have American, and then you have straight razor. And the straight razor school is taking off, and even that is subsetting now into vintage razors, different schools that, like for example, Dovo in Germany makes one type of razor, Tiers Zard makes another. You've got Boker out of Germany. They make a different type of razor, very highly finished product. It's a beautiful, beautiful business. It's a beautiful business, and now it's in Walmart. You can find shaving soaps. You can find double-edged blades. No razors yet, but you can find the blades all over the place. CVS Pharmacy. The other day, I was watching TV and I noticed somebody on one of the cable channels is selling his own double-edged razor. I think it's one of the Duck Dynasty guys or Pawn guys. Pawn Stars. Yeah, he has a double-edged razor with a silo top. He's launched that, which it just astounds me. When 10 years ago, double-edged razors weren't even available. You couldn't even buy one. I didn't have them, and now they're ubiquitous. They're everywhere. So it is a massive, massive growth industry, and nobody can keep up with it anymore. I can't keep up with it. I can barely keep up with my own school. My own school has bred about 10 different derivative schools that have come out of my own school. So it's just the internet. It's the internet. It's just powering it everywhere. It's all around the world, and it's extraordinary. I never thought I would see this happen ever.
It's gone viral.
Well, it's gone viral. It's gone global. It's probably one of the few niche industries that is truly global. I mean, it's truly global. It's more people shave in India with a double-edged razor than around the world. So the future is not only bright, but it's blinding bright. I mean, our biggest challenge. Here's our biggest challenge now, and this is important to get out. And I think it has to underpin our entire conversation today. The biggest challenge we face today is the gap between my generation, the founder generation, which we're not going to be around forever. Okay, I know a lot of guys think they ought to be around forever, but I'm not. I can't even. The founder generation, those of us who started this whole thing, of which there are just a bare handful anymore, we don't have a successor generation. Reason being that the challenges, the demand of expertise on anybody entering this business is so huge today. What you have to know is so vast and so intense that most people balk at the prospect of even trying to get into the business because of everything you have to know. You have to know the cosmetic actions of various products. You have to know fragrance and perfumery. You have to know metallurgy. You have to have some basic training in organic chemistry. You have to have it. It's not an option. You have to. You have to know how to teach. You have to properly teach. My role has basically changed from, I mean, I still sell product, obviously, but 80% of what I do around here in Austin is I teach. I teach technique, what I call full spectrum wet shaving, straight razors, stropping, double-edged technique, blade trenching, cutting the forms, building mix, wet packing, shaving brushes, on and on and on. It's endless. It's endless. It's unbelievable. So
sure. To
get people, young people, probably under the age of 30, into this business who have a fighting chance to even learn fast enough to get on board is becoming a daunting task. It really is. And it's almost getting to the point now where we stand to lose a generation if we don't get on with it. In other words, we don't start getting more young people. They're all using it. They love it. But to get more young people in the business, I'm not seeing that. I'm almost 60. So, I mean, even if I've got another 15, 20 years, it seems like a long time, but it isn't. It isn't. And I'm not even nearly as active in the large scale trade as I used to be. I do a lot of consulting stuff now and boring things like that. But I don't get into the game. I don't suit up and get into the game the way I used to, writing books and all that. I don't do that anymore. I'm now working on new product development, kind of narrowly focused product developmental issues that are very interesting to me. Trying to get the marriage between wet shaving and dermatology kind of on the way for the next generation to pick up. So it's a beautiful, beautiful business. It really is. There's really nothing like it. But we are challenged in getting younger people to get on board and get involved.
Well, let me give you some hope then. That's what we're all about here. All that being said, Charles, can you give us a little breakdown on your method? We have a lot of newbies listening to our show right now that may not be familiar with you or your methods. So can we start from the beginning here? What I found interesting was the whole concept of resetting the beard growth pattern. That appealed to me.
Yeah, that's very fun. That's fundamental to the whole process. Yeah, and where that came from, I have a science and philosophy background. So one of the things that we learn in science and philosophy both is that processes need to be rationalized. In other words, if I invent a process to do something, it's rational if I can teach it to you. Okay. In other words, where I can teach you how to do it, not where every single iteration of what I do is peculiar. And depending on your talent or your ability to understand yourself or whatever your situation is, that's not science, okay? That's voodoo, that's astrology, okay? What we want to do is we need to systematize things, okay? That's why my book on my textbook is called The Systematics of Wet Shaving. When I came to wet shaving, basically, like for example, loading a shaving brush, okay? Well, there's a technique for that. I invented several techniques. There's one core basic technique for that, and then it's called wet packing. You have to learn to wet pack a brush properly. So the same thing like if you're going to pack a parachute, you don't just fold the parachute up and put it in your bag. You're not going to be parachuting very often if you do that. You have to learn to pack a parachute. You have to learn to pack a shaving brush. And the main thing is, my first question when I came to wet shaving was, in transitioning from what I call, the mass market environment to wet shaving, was why is shaving so difficult? Why is it so difficult? Why is shaving, this is going back 20 years ago, why is it so difficult? We're cutting hair here, okay? And barbershops all over the country, and they cut hair, and it's not a problem at all. Why is shaving so difficult? Well, I got all these excuses and explanations. Well, I'm not interested in those, okay? I wanted a system. I wanted a rational process for shaving. Well, there was none.
Right.
We had we had grain shaving. Well, first of all, grain shaving means nothing. There's no such thing as grain shaving. Okay. That's foolishness. There's no such thing as grain shaving because, first of all, there is no grain in the beard. The beard is a massive growth of individual follicular structures. They don't grow together. They don't grow apart. They grow. They grow in their own way. Each one grows separately. So to talk about shaving the grain is absolutely unhelpful. It's completely what we don't need. It's like telling somebody, well, how do you make money on the stock market? Well, buy cheap and sell dear. Well, who the hell ever made money doing that? How do you even use such a thing? I mean, that's something that's so general and open-ended that it's hopeless. It offers you no productive insight as to exactly how to do something. So I invented the forms, and the forms took about 2 years to perfect. And I would say that one thing I think I can say justly and legitimately is that when I invented the 3-form cutting model, I made a modern American wet shaving possible. And I think that most people who are unprejudiced for whatever reason, and they know the history of American wet shaving and just didn't start yesterday, will absolutely agree with that because it's teachable. The 3X cutting form model makes wet shaving teachable. It makes the blade off process teachable. I've taught it thousands and thousands and thousands of times, okay? As opposed to, well, you'll just have to learn to shave the grain. Well, the grain changes every 24 hours. Beard hair changes every hour. So what's the grain? Give me a beard that's 24 hours, 48, 72 hours, and you're going to have a completely different drift of that beard, totally different alignment. So when do you cut the grain? So what you get is, with the forms, is you get a systematic approach to shaving. Your first form is a north-south axis. Your second form is a lateral transverse to the center. Your third form is a counterline transverse to the center, going bottom to top. There is no south-north axis, all right? So once and what you're doing is you're taking the beard down. You're not shaving it, you're taking it down in a process that's now very famous. I use a word called reduction, which is a very famous word now in shaving. It's the one we don't talk about shaving, we talk about reduction. Right. Okay, so what is shaving? Well, this is a very important thing to keep in mind. And another thing I discovered and have taught for years is that you don't shave a beard. That's nonsense. You cut a beard. You shave the skin. You shave the skin. You don't shave a beard. That's asinine, okay? With these kinds of ideas in our head, we don't make any progress, all right? It's a fundamental way of thinking about how things get done. You cut the beard. That term, we don't use the term cut in method shaving, we use the term reduction. Because reduction is a progressive paring down of the beard. It's a progressive cutting down of the beard till you get to the epidermis. At that point, you want to get to what we call as close to zero grain as you can, to where there's this little beard left. And then what you do is you go on ahead and you shave the face and neck. So, and then after that, you do what is called a conditioning cycle, where you actually reset the texture of the skin with a hydragenic emollient that you massage into the face. Okay, so we have reduction, we have shaving, and we have conditioning. And that process is mirrored in the alternate method shaving sequence of primer, buffer, and conditioner. So your primer is your soap, water, and liquid emollient that's used to cut the beard, and then you've got your shaving paste or buffering cream, whichever you decide to use, that allows you to actually do the epidermal shave. And then you've got your conditioning, which is typically a tonic and a conditioner. In other words, that's your aftershave, what people would call an aftershave moisturizing cycle. So you have primer, buffer, and conditioner that mirrors the first, second, and third form, and also mirrors the process of reduction, shaving, and conditioning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, in other words, you're working with a 3-part sequence.
Right.
Okay, and that 3-part sequence is mirrored in another process. So they're like nested balls. They're one sequence is in another sequence is another sequence, and they all very much overlap. And that's what makes the system so extraordinarily effective. When you understand that there's a first, second, and third form, you understand that there's a reduction, shaving, and conditioning sequence, and that there's also a priming, buffering, and conditioning sequence. Right. See, so once you start to think in that that 3-part growth or evolution or process in the shave, it all makes sense.
Right.
I'm curious in this overlap of shaving and dermatology. I guess, your average man is not going to study dermatology to any extent whatsoever. What are some key things that the average man should know about the skin of his face?
Well, that's an excellent question. Actually, that's a better question than my original point. Your question is really, really outstanding. When I say the marriage of method shaving and dermatology, that's very abstract, and it's more a vision of where I see all this going over the next decade with my system. I see it here internally. That's my focus. For the average shaver, to break out this distinction you're making, which is a very, very important one, the thing about the average shaver, he needs to understand a couple things. Number one is that wet shaving is evolutionary. Okay, in the sense that it is, you practice it your entire life. There are a lot of products out there, but basically, what the average shaver needs to understand is that it's a learning process, and we really do have it down. I mean, the amount of information we have at our command today in the wet shaving environment is so staggering, and it's so exact and empirically driven that there's really no excuse for someone not to be able to get an absolutely perfect shave every day. And there's no excuse. I mean, when somebody says that they don't enjoy their shaving, I say, well, that's your decision. That's your choice. And I don't mean to sound, I don't mean to sound pretentious. It is. It's a choice there's absolutely no reason today to not get a perfect gloss shave every single day. We have the equipment, we have the means, we have the mixes, we have everything we need to do that. Now, what I see in a lot of cases is that, and I don't know exactly what drives this, but the majority, there's a lot of information on the internet, but there's not enough knowledge. There's not enough information that's knowledge specific to each shaver. So there's a lot of thrashing around and buying a product and using a product that really goes nowhere for a lot of people. I don't want to overstate that. It's not nearly as bad as it used to be. I think that wet shaving in the United States is becoming more and more of an ordered enterprise. In other words, there's more organized information out there. I think we probably would do better if we could have more regional meetings. We would have more organs on the internet that were more information driven and more instructionally driven. We have some of those. A very close friend of mine named Mike Sandoval has an outstanding website called shaving101.com. The fantastic website it covers a lot of this type of information. It's a vast, vast, vast subject. I mean, I could literally write a book just on the use of rare earth clays in the manufacture of hydrogenic shaving products. I could write a massive, massive book just on that subject alone. I could spend the next 30 minutes talking about, shaving the third quadrant of the second form. Right. Spend 30 minutes telling you about that. And not that that's something you necessarily want to hear today, but I mean, it's that intense. It's because it's a technically rich, very technically rich and fascinating subject. And there's no top to it and there's no bottom to it. I mean, you can start anywhere you want. You can start with a thistle brush and a basic shaving soap, and you can get an outstanding result. But what will happen is that there are 3 drivers to wet shaving: faster, closer, and more comfortable. Faster, closer, and more comfortable. So it's like the automobile industry. I mean, you can always go faster. You can always, I know sure the distinctions are a little different there, but you can always go faster. You can always have a more economical use of gasoline, and you can have a much more comfortable ride. It's the same thing. In the R&D element in wet shaving is furious. It's very, very intense. I'm probably half my time is still spent in R&D of some kind, working with different types of consistencies and products and buffering agents. It swallowed me. I mean, I could use a large lab. The other thing, though, too, which is very, very, very nice, is that with the exception of Gillette in the business of art of shaving in their retail boutiques, American wet shaving is dominated by individuals. But there are not many of us. There aren't many of us at all. There are just really a bare handful of individuals in the trade who are the thought leaders, and then you have thousands of people using product. So it's still very much niche driven, very, very much. You've got people making strops, individuals making strops, straight razors, refinishing straight razors. It just goes on and on. You've got a lot of companies that are manufacturing double-edged razors in a one-off form. You've got people manufacturing shaving strips, but there are no large corporations involved in this business. It's very much, it's like the organics business a little bit. You don't have big organics farms. You have thousands of independents that keep standards very high, and support the trade very aggressively, maintain very high product integrity levels. So I think as long as it stays like that, I think it'll be very healthy. But it's a very fragmented industry. It's very fragmented. I use the term industry because I really don't have another word at this point for it.
No, that makes sense. It almost sounds like you're describing cottage industries.
I would, that's a good distinction. I would say yes and no. I don't have an alternate term that's better than the one you just used, so we'll use cottage industry, but it's an international industry, so it really isn't cottage. But I don't have a better term than cottage, so we'll use yours as the operative word, right? The operative expression. It's an international phenomenon. So, and I would say also that the levels of sophistication that we're operating at are far beyond what you would expect from a cottage industry. It's probably, if you look, for example, at the wine industry, it mirrors the wine industry very, very closely. Actually, I've always made wine and coffee. Wine, coffee, and wet shaving. If you look at the profiles of those industries, those businesses, you'll see tremendous parallels with the evolution of American wet shaving. Very, very much so. Very much. I'm focused on, of course, formulary, wet mix formulary. That's my thing. That's where I focus all my effort. You've got other people who focus on perfecting leathers for strop manufacturing. You've got other people who are making soaps of various incarnations. It is it's a global cottage industry of enormous sophistication.
Right.
Charles, do you enjoy shaving?
Oh, I love it. I mean, but I'm very fast. I mean, if you've seen my videos, I'm very fast. I mean, I can go from a full grain to zero grain gloss reduction with a gloss finish probably in 6 minutes. We're using a brand new feather platinum. Yeah, without a mark on my face. I think I can comfortably say that I'm not only the fastest shaver in the world, but I'm definitely the closest.
Is there shaving competitions? I feel like that could be.
You know what? That's a great question. I thought maybe years ago already. I thought of maybe having a shave off, an international shave off, and it would not be hard to put together at all.
Not at all.
You have like an Olympics of where you would start out. You'd have 3 guys, and you put a clock on the wall, and you would basically do a beard test. You do a beard density test, which wouldn't be that hard to do. And here's the thing too: it doesn't matter how dense your beard is; it's a matter of how good your technique is.
Right.
So, I mean, let's say, for example, I'm going up against a guy who's got 20% less grain density or less index than I do. He still can't beat me. It's like in chess, you have a lot of chess masters who will play other people, and the chess master will take his queen off the board and play the other guy with the queen and still beat him. It's not a matter of how much beard you've got. It's a matter of how fast you can, how well you can control your mix consistency and your hydricity levels, and how good technically you are with a blade. So yes, I could see a shaving Olympics very easily.
Yeah,
and it would be quite exhilarating to watch, because you get a guy who's moving a double-edged blade. You could also do it with straight razor too. You get somebody moving a double-edged blade, flashing that steel blade, who knows what he's doing, and that's quite impressive to watch. So yeah. I mean, a lot of variations on that.
I could foresee having you would have like a whole team, like a pit crew or something that would make your lather for you. You would have somebody that's like stropping your blade for you. You'd have like a whole team.
I was just going to have the guy do it all himself.
But then there's like the solo competition. Yeah.
To Hollywood now. Yeah, that would be fantastic. Well, you'd have that's one pit crew, and of course you'd have to have. I mean, it would be extraordinary, and it would be quite entertaining.
I agree.
Because once you understand what they have to do, I mean, remember, you're taking a blade that's twice as sharp as a surgical blade, okay, that can slice a molecule, and you're taking that blade and you're running across your face at about 30 miles an hour. High-speed blade off, speed shaving, about 30 miles an hour.
There would be different variations.
We have to cover the competition with macro lenses so that we can get down to like just skin level. You know what I mean? Forget about.
Basically is you'd have a timer, and you'd give everybody 6 minutes, and at the end of 6 minutes, the timer goes off. You put your razor down, and then you have some gloriously attractive woman walk up with a credit card or a business card and just do a reverse scratch on the skin line on the third quadrant on the upper neck. And if you hear something,
a buzzer goes off and a trap door opens beneath him. He disappears.
Who has less who has less at the end wins.
Exactly.
Okay. And it wouldn't be that terribly hard at all to make that determination. It'd be like anything. It'd be a judgment call, but you'd have 3 judges who each one of them would do a scratch and touch test on the third quadrant. And if that didn't quite work, then they would do one on the second quadrant as well. And whoever had the least hair at the end and the smoothest face, and of course, if you draw blood, you're disqualified.
If
you get blood at all, you're instantly disqualified. Yeah. If you watch me shave, you don't see any blood. There's no blood. No. Nope.
Yeah.
No blood. If you get hit and you start bleeding, you're done. You're out.
Yeah. No, we've talked about this in the past about having a shave off. You might be our guy to go to and make this happen.
That would be a big barn burner. That would be great. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason I didn't do it was because of the recession. And I just thought, people aren't going to fly out of here for that. But now it looks like we're starting to crawl out of the recession a little bit more now than before. But that has been on my mind a lot to do like an internet. Have it here in Austin where it belongs.
Of course.
So have an international wet shaving competition here, and you could also do a straight razor.
Yeah,
that would be fantastic.
Yeah. Well, there could be different categories. You could have the slow shaver.
Totally different.
Slow shaver, the fast shaver, the straight razor shaver.
Like I wouldn't like Lynn. You have to bring Lynn Abrams in for the straight razor.
Yeah,
stuff,
exactly.
I mean, and again, there's that tells you something, doesn't it? I've been at this quarter century, and I would have to defer completely to a guy like Lynn Abrams. I mean, I'm the guru of the double edge, but the straight razor is. I mean, I teach it. I teach all that stuff, but I'm not Lynn Abrams, that's for sure.
Right.
Not in this life. I mean, he's titanic. So you'd have to bring him in for the straight razors.
Yep.
I would do the double edge. It's extraordinary. Sure.
Yeah. Well, I say let's do it.
Do you want to issue a challenge to anybody else out there listening to this podcast right now for the double edge?
I think this is one of those big ideas. This is a big, hairy, aggressive goal.
It begins here.
Yeah, this is a great subject, and it's one that I think that we could certainly carry on beyond this conversation, and certainly I could do it here. I mean, Austin is set. Everybody knows that this is the mecca for American wet shaving here in Austin. I mean, it has been for years. It would be appropriate. I could get a lot of people to attend. It would be very exciting. You have to be trained. I mean, you have to know what you're doing. And you could have 3 categories. You could have newbie category. You could have, I don't know. You could break it out. You could have newbie. You could have middling. You have ninja class.
Yeah.
Guys who, and you could have money. Hell yeah, money.
Yeah.
Throw in $500. $500 for 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And you win in 6 minutes. You get $500. That's not bad. That's not bad money.
No, good chunk of change.
But you could actually have like a shaving Olympics, where you get these guys who are just really, really, really fast. And then, of course, guys like me would make their mix for them. You see, they would hire a guy like me to make the mix.
Yeah.
You see, there's the pit crew I was talking about.
That's like your fuel at Darlington, who's making your fuel.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's making your oil. So I would make for those shavers, those double-edged shavers, I would make them a very, very, very fast, wet, high hydricity,
high octane,
a really rich hydricity driven mix that a regular shaver would never be able to handle. I'd blend that up for my guy. I would sponsor somebody and I would blend his mix for him. Oh yeah, you could have custom razors made for those guys.
Oh yeah.
It would be absolute. Imagine it, like you could have Icon craft a particular razor
for your man.
Guys wearing he's got Icon on his T-shirt or whatever. He's shaving him.
Yeah,
and he's got just like you do at the races. It'd be great.
I wonder if we could get Ivan Drago to be your shaver, your competitor. I feel like you need somebody that's very austere and like Soviet.
Like a chess game.
Just grab one of those guys out of the ice and bring him in if he's got a nice thick beard. That'd be great. I mean, and if he can shave, I mean, he's got to be able to shave. I mean, this is the thing. He's got to be able to shave. He's got to, and you would have like a method technique. You have a traditional brush technique, and they're going to be very different. So the method's going to be very fast, very close. So you could break it out that way. You can have those three schools. You can have traditional brush, you could have method, and straight. And then those three winners would go on and they would compete against their classes, and then they would the winner would get a medal and a bunch of money at the end. Absolutely,
gold razor at the end.
I can see Icon having a mounted gold razor, a $10,000 mounted gold razor. Absolutely,
yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the potential challenges I see here, though, is the fact that you would need to allow sufficient time for each competitor to actually regrow some hair to move on, for the next round kind of thing. It would have to happen over the course of days.
Or a team. You have a team.
Right. You could do, absolutely. Yeah. What you would do is you'd have competition. Then you'd wait a week and have another competition. But probably what you do is, that's a great point. I would say probably what you do is you'd have just one shave off. In other words, you'd have, let's say, 100 people show up. You'd break them off into categories. You'd have heats. And, but you're right. I mean, you'd have to have enough time for grow back. But I would say, actually, that's an excellent point. I would say a 24-hour growth. And you know what? Actually, you just solved the problem for me with that question.
Oh, there we go.
You just solved the problem for me. What you would do is everybody comes in and you shave everybody. And then at 24 hours, you compete.
Oh, yeah. I like it.
So you just solved a big problem for me. You see? So everybody comes in, they shave, they take it down to 0 grain, as close as they can, which is good for them, for the next day. And then 24 hours later, you compete. So everybody gets the same growth volume after 24 hours, essentially. Now, it's not going to be exact. It doesn't have to be, though. You see, it doesn't have to be. Not at all. Because it's still a matter of technique and skill.
Right.
It's like you have different, classifications in boxing.
Exactly. Lightweight, heavyweight.
Not all heavyweights are the same weight and the same size. Some are, there's some variation there. In the end, it's going to be driven by technique, the ability to keep your wet mix, build it, put it up, cut the forms, knowing the forms, knowing how to cut the forms, knowing how to short the forms properly to get your speed. So there's a lot to it.
How do we handle contestants who, say, had a mustache like myself, or a mustache and a Van Dyke?
Oh, no facial hair at all. All has to come. You have to shave the upper first quadrant. You have to clear the mustache. No facial hair of any kind.
Not
could that be a category, though? Could that be one of the games? Like there's the mustache category where you're shaving around, you're grooming, and there's a balance to that. They check afterwards to make sure it's...
You could very possibly do that, absolutely. You could possibly do that, sure. But remember, if there's any blood, you're out.
Right.
One mark of blood, any blood, you're out. You're disqualified.
Right.
And that, I'll tell you, that puts some real discipline in it, because you really have to know what you're doing. You really have to know what you're doing to knock down those 3 forms, especially the third form with no blood, not one mark on your face. And if you have a mark but no blood, that you get points deducted. Be like kind of like swimming or figure skating, where they have they count.
Yes.
They use a 10-point system. Then they knock off 1/10 with 2/10, 3/10, that type of thing. It would be so easy to set up, because I can see it. I mean, I know exactly how to set it up, and you'd have different companies would show up with their products, and they could custom blend.
Moustache and Blade doing live coverage.
Oh, hell yeah. It'd be fantastic.
Now, would it be one after another, or would the 3 guys be up there at the same time? Because if it's one after another, if you have your own routine, you could pick your own soundtrack to play as well.
Yeah, I mean, what you'd probably have heats. You go over 3 days. You'd have the first heat where you'd shave, and kind of like a warm-up shave. And then you'd maybe, I don't know, we'd have to work that out. I mean, or they could just come in and just shave, just come in and get screened. You'd have to have qualifying heats, though. You'd have to have qualifying heats. What I would say is, like, for example, they came in and they lined up, I would say, okay, they would have to know what the forms are. They would have to know how to cut. I mean, they don't have to cut the forms. They can cut whatever they want, but they're going to lose if they don't cut the forms. If they try to stand there and try to grain shave, they're not going to get very far. They're going to get cut and burned up. So they would have to be able to prove to the judges that they were sufficiently knowledgeable to be able to cut those forms, that they know what they're doing, and you should bring them on. And the heats would be easy to judge, because what you do is you just basically, anybody who gets cut is disqualified. So you just line them up 3 after 3 after 3 after 3, and if they get cut, they get disqualified. You see, anybody gets cut, they get disqualified. Right. So here's the thing about that. Speed is of the essence, but you don't want to get cut. You see, got to be careful. So if you slow down and you cut more methodically and you don't get cut, you could end up the winner. So that's what makes it so exciting, is that you don't have to necessarily be the fastest guy. You just have to know what you're doing. You see, you just have to know what you're doing. Let's say you and I are shaving, and you're a ninja class method shaver, and I'm just a goober. Okay. Well, you may be zipping along and you get cut. You're out.
Yep.
See, and here I am, Goober Gomez, and here I'm cutting. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, but I'm not getting cut. I'm still in the game. Slow as long as I don't get cut, I'm still in the game. So it's last man standing, right? You see, it's the last man standing.
Yet another application of the tortoise and the hare.
Great example. Exactly. As long as I don't get cut, even if I exceed 6 minutes, okay, let's say I get to 6 minutes, and I've only cleared 2 forms, if I'm up against 10 of the guys and they've all gotten cut, I'm the winner. You see, I've only gotten 2 forms, but I'm the winner. I'm the last man standing because I didn't get cut. So you have to be careful what you're doing. Even me. Let's say you go up against me, you go, oh, hell, that's Charles Roberts. I can't beat him. He'll kill me. Well, not necessarily.
Right.
I could be smoking along. I'm burying you. You're still trying to clear the second quadrant of the first form, and I'm on the third quadrant, second form. I fuse 2 quadrants too fast, and I get cut.
It's over.
Guess what? I'm out.
Exactly.
I'm out. I'm gone.
Yeah, totally.
You have an open highway. You just keep going. You could win. See, that's what makes it so. See, that's the thing that makes it so exciting.
Yes.
Is that you don't know, Charles Roberts, you're going to walk away with this thing. No. Not necessarily at all. I get cut sometimes. I mean, it's not really much to get excited about. But I feel like a blade scrape, and then of course I will. Well, guess what? I'm out. Yeah. So that speed, I'm very fast, of course, but that speed doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be able to gloss up and without leaving a mark on my face. I have to be very, very careful. So that's going to slow me down, because if I get clipped anywhere and there's blood, I'm disqualified. So there you are. You're half stepping at 10% my speed, but you're not getting cut. You win. You see, and that's what would make it exciting to watch. Yeah, that's what would make it exciting to watch. Not guys shaving, obviously, but can the maestros, can the ninjas get through it without getting cut? Well, it's like you look at the Olympics, these guys that they show up at the 100-meter dash, and they got the world record. They've won the last 10 races, but they disqualify at the final heat. They disqualify for some reason, or the guy in the broad jump's got the world record and he disqualifies because his toe goes over the board. He can't make the jump without being disqualified. Right, he's out. Right, and then it's up in the air. Same thing here.
Who would you envision as being some of the coaches out there, that people from the industry right now, or from the wet shaving world, some of the bigger names out there? Who could you see as like coaching the different teams?
Wow, that's a good question. Mike Sandoval, my friend here in Austin, he could do it. He's an expert in traditional brush and method. Oh. He's a product and technique expert. We're very close. I don't know. They're out there. I get them in here all the time. Shavers that I taught, they've been with me for years and years and years. They're very good. Yeah, I don't know. We could put out like an APB and have them respond, or put something on and have them. They could show, but it could be very big. It could be very big. And again, it's exciting because you don't know who's going to win. Right. You don't know who's going to win. You see. Well, Charles Robert shows up, he's going to walk away with it. No, I won't. No, I won't. If I get a bad blade, which I can get, because the blades will all be issued randomly. I mean, feather doesn't make a bad. You'd have to shave with a feather. You couldn't shave with anything else. Okay, so that's going to narrow the pack right there. So let's say they issue. So they just hand out the blades. You pick up your blade. You get issued a blade at random. Well, maybe I get a blade that's not exactly perfect. Maybe I get a blade that's it's an off.
Right.
It's the element of chance.
Yeah, it's an off blade. It just doesn't. The bevel's not exactly right. Very uncommon, but I've seen it once or twice. It's really kind of an anomalous thing, but
yeah.
Oh yeah. And we all get issued new razors, so you can't jiggle your razor. You can't play with the weight and all that. In other words,
right.
Same razor, brand new Merkur HD. You can't get in there and retool your razor. It's very interesting when you think about it. When you start looking at it, it's very interesting when you think about all the things you can do to make it fascinating and a lot of fun to watch. And it's 6 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And you think about that. You get these guys smoking that steel for 6 minutes. That would be very, very exciting to watch.
I agree. I think we should make this happen in 2014, maybe this summer.
I think it's a grand idea. I really do. I think it's a grand idea, and I think I would really kick wet shaving into the pants again and really fire it up. And then you could do straight razor shaving, which would be even more. Well, every bit as exciting. That would be very exciting.
Yes, that
would
to
watch straight razors go at it. I mean, that would be dueling straight razors. That would be
dueling straight razors. We could have two guys at the same time. I like that.
Well, and then they strop and they do their mix and they roll their brush and ba 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 ba.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They're just zip 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 zip. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's live action. It really is. It would be. And I could see it on TV. It would be perfect for television. Perfect for television. Cable would pick that up in a sec. They'd love that. I have it right here in Austin. And I could get this. I mean, I could get the city of Austin. Believe me, the city of Austin would jump on this in a minute.
Sure,
they'd love it.
You could tie it in with the festival. Well,
yeah, and this is a big entertainment and promotion capital. Anyhow, it's a big center for all that marketing and promotion and bands and live entertainment. This city's geared to that. They'd love it. They love it, and I'm here, and they know everybody in the city knows that this is the Mecca. This is the wet shaving Mecca. Everybody knows that. So they would love it. I came up with this idea years ago of having this type of thing, and you could take it all over the world. I mean, it's very, very, very fascinating.
Well, if the contest itself would be a kick in the pants to the wet shaving community, may this podcast be the kick in the pants to the contest itself. May this be the charge to move forward and actually make this thing happen.
You guys have got the bully pulpit. I mean, you guys have got the means. You've got the media. You've got I don't have. I mean, you've got the media. You've got the savvy and the expertise. You've got your hand on the tiller here in terms of the media organ necessary to make all this type of thing happen. I think it would revolutionize. I don't know that it would change wet shaving, because wet shaving is growing, as I said, 5 to 12% a year. I don't know what the numbers are. I'd like somebody, some financial whiz to try to figure out what the rate of growth is, because it has grown constantly for the last 15 years. Every year it grows. All through the recession. So yeah, it's growing by alarming numbers. Yes. I just don't know. I don't know how much, but it's at least 5, 6, 7% a year. It's year over year. The growth increment is astonishing. It really is. I just look at the volume of material that I pump out of here. Just here in my lab, when I look at what I produce, raw material costs, bottling costs, it just keeps climbing, going up. It just goes up like a hot thermometer. So I can imagine. I know that Edwin Jagger out of England, excellent company, manufacturer of razors and shaving brushes, very, very large, extraordinary firm. I know their numbers are massive. Their numbers have gotten to the point where he's literally expanded around the world. So wet shaving is not the next big thing. It is the big thing.
Yep.
It really is.
I agree.
I mean, it's in the middle of it. And this renaissance that we've been in, that I called years ago, the American wet shaving renaissance, is still going strong. I see no diminution in it at all. I see no diminution. It's unreal. It's self-perpetuating.
Sure.
It's maniacal.
This is the beginning of the curve, as far as I'm concerned. I don't think we've reached that point yet.
Oh no. What's going to happen eventually is probably what you'll have is, well, I understand it in San Francisco now they've got shave shops everywhere. This is going to be the next Starbucks. Not that I want that. I don't.
Right.
That idea does not appeal to me. I think Starbucks is a great concept for coffee, but that approach to wet shaving is not going to do very well. It's not appropriate for wet shaving. But I'm speaking generically now,
Sure.
in terms of broad similarities that we can all relate to. I think the next thing would be to set up here in Austin a school of American wet shaving where I can start teaching this stuff, and where people will pay, enroll, and be taught how to do this. That would solve the problem of generational
Transmission of knowledge,
generational leadership in this field being created under the right conditions, where I would actually have a school of wet shaving. And I may eventually do that, just have people enroll, and it's, a 3-4 week course, 6-week course. I take them through perfumery, dermatology, to your earlier excellent point about the obscurity of that subject, but its relevance to what we're talking about. Metallurgy, understanding the principles of metallurgy, teaching, training, marketing, understanding. So it'd be, like a 6-week course, and you pay to get into it. You paid it, and you'd be certified, and you could go out and you could open your own place. Because it is definitely an owner-operator type of thing. I think I see that as the solution to this training problem. It's just to actually open a school here, and I may do that yet before I'm done. Just stop what I'm doing, not maybe stop, but add a school function to what I'm already doing, and spend half my time instructing young people in this trade.
Now, I notice you're saying people, and you're saying it's not guys you're speaking specifically to, I guess. So have you taken it into consideration that women are picking up on wet shaving now too? And have you worked out a method for them?
Well, I get this question constantly, and I have for years. I won't get into it too deeply because it's a kind of a different subject. But let me just say this: the women that I've met who know American wet shaving are formidable. Probably 30, maybe 40% of the people who visit my videos and websites are women. Women are very, very, very involved in this business, primarily from the standpoint of convincing their men or coaching their men to take it on, to adopt it. The area of women's wet shaving is extremely fascinating. It's a little surprising though, because there's a lot more to it. And I don't want to, necessarily drill too deeply into the subject, because it has a lot of very interesting and rich nuances to it. If you follow my drift here, when we talk about women, we talk about that part of a woman's anatomy. It's very fascinating, but that kind of rolls over into the area of it's a subject that's much larger than just shaving, and it gets into massage. It gets into scented elements, agents. Women respond to these kinds of products and processes at a much, much higher level, or higher frequency or vibration, whatever you want to call it. Their response is much more nuanced. I do teach, it's a kind of a fascinating sidebar to my main business. I do teach men to shave women's legs, and that may sound a little bit comical, but it's very serious.
No, that sounds like another category in our games that we're talking about, the shave off. It's
related more to massage, because it's you're using a massage technique along it's a massage and it's a technique of massage and movement and blade technique that's very sensuous. It's extremely sensuous, and it's a lot of fun. But I have to, it's game. It's deep game. I teach quite a bit of that. But It's a couples thing. So as far as women themselves, it's not a problem at all. The average woman can get a shaving brush and a basic shaving soap, and she can shave her own legs with a double edge or a multi-blade, and it's really not particularly difficult. One of the advantages of teaching a man to shave a woman's legs is that it gives a great opportunity to teach some fundamental techniques of blade trenching, pitching, blade pitching, compounding, stretching the mix. Because there's a lot of area to work with, and that the subcutaneous region of a woman's legs is very nice and thick. There's a lot of give there. In other words, the texture is very nice for learning to shave. And learning some really, really excellent and critical vital blade techniques instead of learning on the face. So yeah, that's a kind of an esoteric subject. It has a lot of different elements to it, and very fascinating. I may do a series of videos on that sometime. That's very entertaining, believe me.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Yeah, it's very entertaining and very surprising. The kind of entertainment it provides too. That's another dimension of wet shaving, which is also spilling now more into the area of massage. Some of that area getting a little bit more provocative because of the kinds of products we're using. Very wet products with a lot of natural silicates. It's a very exciting field. I mean, there's a lot going on, that a lot of derivative areas that come out of the specific wet shaving environment that are very, very compelling and really deserve a lot more scrutiny and research than they're getting now. Yeah, it's a up and down the chain. There's something going on constantly. Either in the production of new formulary, which is a very intensely fascinating subject, that's unfolding. That's in its infancy still. I've laid the groundwork for a lot of it to carry on nicely, but by no means have I exhausted the field at all. I mean, I'm just at the very beginning, but I have laid some excellent groundwork for the development of water-based shaving media for the future, if I can get people interested in taking up this calling. But yeah, women love it. Women love it. They really do. And also too, from the standpoint of women don't like to be scratched. Okay, women don't want their faces scratched by men, and a beard, it's not a particularly pleasant thing, especially if you've got an 8 to 12 hour growth on a beard. It's not a particularly pleasant thing to rub against a woman's face. It's terribly raspy. You would no sooner rub it against a woman's face than you rub it against a baby's face. You see, and so women, I hear it. They complain to me about the fact that they want to put the man in a wet shaving system because they're tired of getting scratched. It hurts. It's very painful.
Well, we're going to wrap things up here in a second, but I wanted to put a punctuation mark on the idea of the shaving contest. To any listener out there who's with us at this point in this podcast, you heard Charles did not cite but one other individual as worthy of such a competition. So if you're interested in getting in on this, I encourage you to email us here at Moustache and Blade and let us know that you would be interested in competing in a shaving competition, and we'll compile those emails and we'll get back to Charles Roberts and see just how much competition he might actually have. But Charles, wanted to thank you for sure for today's conversation.
Yes.
It was highly enlightening.
It's my pleasure. Thank you both so much for having me today. It was very enjoyable, and I think that this call out to the wider world for shavers out there who may want to either challenge me or challenge themselves, I think it's great. I'm sure we'll be intensely surprised to see the level of talent that actually exists out there that, of course, I'm not aware of. That would be a very nice surprise to encounter. I know there are a lot of great shavers out there. I mean, I've run into them here. I just don't know if they can shave competitively. And it would be a whole new thing to undertake.
Oh, it's on. It's on. The challenges have been made, folks. If you're listening,
I mean, do you guys sponsoring that? That's the ticket right there. I mean, you guys could sponsor it, and that would be the best part of it. Is that then I'm out of it. I'm out of it in the sense that it wouldn't have anything really to do with me per se, other than maybe just to contribute some additional information or help in shaping the thing and moving it forward. But it would be great if 2014 could be kind of like our first national shave off.
Yeah, and that's another announcement. We're looking for sponsors for Shave Off 2014 starting now as well. So if you are a vendor or an artist and interested in sponsoring this,
responses you get, I'd love to hear.
Oh, we will definitely. You'll be the first to know,
and
Charles.
if they want to step up and compete, that's marvelous. I love. What a great idea.
Yeah, it's on. We're going to do this. Well, thank you again, Charles. It's been so great having you. I think you've blown some minds.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure being with you today, and look forward to doing it again sometime.
Excellent. Stay in touch, Charles, and we'll hopefully be talking to you real soon. Thank you again. And this is Douglas Smythe and Ryan Green signing off. To any of our listeners looking to find out more information on Charles Roberts and his method shaving technique, you can visit him at hydrolast.com, where you can find his products and his technique. You can also find him on YouTube at youtube.com/method shaving. We encourage you to check him out today. It will blow your mind. Thanks for joining us today, folks, and ciao.
Shave Off 2014.
Be there.
You have been listening to the Moustache and Blade Podcast. Thanks for listening, and please leave us a review on iTunes. Almost clean shaven, but hardly clean cut. Moustache and Blade.